Meet the Crew with your host, Lloyd Ellis.
Welcome to Meet the Crew. I'm your host, Lloyd Ellis, and this is the place where you get to meet your friends, family, and possible rock stars from here and there. If you like what you see, please subscribe, like that whole normal bell ring thing that YouTube likes to do, so that way the algorithms can do all that little clicky stuff. But enough of all that. Today we have our special guest, guitar player extraordinaire, session musician, live musician, music producer. I'm going to actually let him introduce himself. Hey, bud, chime in. Say what's up.
Hey, Lloyd, what is happening, dude?
Introduce yourself to these folks out here on the interwebs.
Hey, interwebs, what's up? My name is Clement, guitar player, all the stuff that Lloyd just said, guitar player, live studio, producer, play a little bass, play a little, I'm kind of a hack at most things. And yeah, man, based out of here, East Nashville, Tennessee.
How'd you get into this industry, brother?
I got blessed and I'm lucky. That's how I feel like what the answer is. I grew up playing guitar. I grew up here in Nashville. I started playing guitar real young. So it's always kind of been a part of my life, but it was never I'm not much of a dreamer, which is kind of sad, but it's also, I think, kind of helped me in some ways. I was not the person that was like, man, I've got this idea and I'm going to get there. Like, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to get there. I've just kind of I'm just still doing the same stuff that I was doing in high school. So much to the chagrin of my wife, I still very much feel like I'm 18 years old. And which is, again, a huge blessing. But went to Belmont University after I graduated from high school and made a lot of really great connections there, and just kind of jumped into playing, and spent about 15 years on the road playing with various and sundry artists. And that was kind of my main industry squeeze, if you will, was the road thing. That's where you and I met. And yeah, it came off the road about 3.5 years ago, and I've kind of been transitioning the squeeze as it is.
Would you be willing to kind of let the folks out there, would you be willing to do a name drop on possibly some of the...
Oh, yeah. So I played with a guy named Mark Broussard for several years, a guy named Matthew West for several years, a dude named Johnny Lang for several years. Worked with a lot of local in-town kind of more independent artists, a guy named Griffin House and Thad Cockrell, and kind of studio credits run the gamut. A lot of contemporary Christian music, a lot of kind of more pop country. Been doing a lot of work over at Big Loud with a producer named Jamie Moore, who started off in the CCM world and has transitioned to having multiple number ones in the country world. And so, yeah, that's some of the name drops.
I love it. I remember when we first met, probably, what was it, almost 10, 11 years ago?
Yeah.
With the little man JB, little Doogie, and
yep.
we rode the buses together, and me at front of house or doing monitors, and you on the stage playing the guitar, and it was fun times. And
those were good times, man.
It is surreal to see where we all have been in the past and where we are now. And speaking of that, right now we are still in this craziness called COVID-19, the COVID virus. How has that affected you professionally or even with your family, if I may ask?
Yeah, man. Well, man, it's been a wild ride. I mean, for everybody. I've been really thankful. I mean, you can see here, this is my studio in all its glory. It's a converted one-car garage from the 60s in our little 60s ranch here in East Nashville. But I kind of invested pretty early on in kind of remote recording.
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of stuff. I mean, even I kind of started when I was out with Matthew West. The musical director for that band is also just a great friend of mine, producer songwriter named Jeff Pardo. We do a ton of work together. And I was starting to kind of get backed up on like, oh, I can't do that track for you because I'm going to be gone this weekend. So I just invested in a mobile rig and started using guitar rig and Native Instruments guitar rig and things like that. So and that again, that was like 10 years ago. So I that investment in mobile remote recording ended up being a huge payoff for me over the past year, even though my heart of hearts, since I've been off the road the past 3 years, I wanted nothing more than to, be playing down on Music Row and, on the big records, getting special payments checks that are crazy and, having those kinds of experiences. But I'll tell you, man, God had something different for me. And while everything else was kind of shutting down last year, I was really ramping up, and I had a huge year last year.
That's good.
And I have an awesome family. So even though we have a relatively small house and we got 5 people in it, we're made it through. My kids finally, all my kids are finally back in what I'm calling human school, in-person learning again.
Or that TI stuff, huh?
Yeah. So we're back. We're back. So I was juggling recording and trying to, I mean, this is it. That's the kitchen right there. So if there's people home recording acoustic instruments,
not happening.
Shut up, and so that was a bit of a challenge, managing school, recording, doing all that stuff. But it was actually pretty good, man. I felt like we learned something. There was sacrifice in it, but it was kind of worth it,
That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. I definitely understand the conversion. Right now, I'm sitting above my garage, and having that space to be able to do what you love to do, that passion, is amazing. It's definitely, in my world, taken a long time to be able to build this up piece by piece. A lot of people look at the spaces that we're in and they think, man, you guys have all this gear, you got all these cool toys to play with, man, you guys must be loaded. But a lot of them really don't realize that a lot of stuff comes one at a time. It's on used deals somewhere here and there. Most of the time, the best sounding stuff is stuff that somebody else has had and modified here and there and made its own little unique sound,
Yeah, totally.
Even with the stuff that I have around here, none of this was purchased as one big lump sum. It was.
Oh no, man! You're looking at years and years and years of tax write-offs behind me. That's you know what I mean. That is what is going on.
Most definitely.
That is what is going on.
Gotta love that. There we go.
That's it.
So currently, what are some projects that you're working on, if I may ask?
Yeah, let's see. So I've been doing some producing with a guy named Peter Groenwald. He and I are just doing some writing, and we're co-producing the tracks. He's in several different bands. He's in a really awesome band with this woman named Jill Andrews. Their band is called Hush Kids. It's brilliant stuff. You can find it everywhere. It's just really, really beautiful. He's in another band with Garrison Starr and Sean McConnell. It's called My Brother, My Sister. So he's actually, I think, about to release another thing with, I think they're actually kind of a CCM duo called We Were the Lion or We Are the Lion or something like that. They're producing. He's kind of the featured vocalist. Anyway, he sings like he's got this beautiful soaring tenor voice. I do a lot of work with a kids education company called Quaver Ed here in town. They're amazing. It's so much fun to make music with them because they send these briefs and they'll say, hey, here's our song. It's called, Bullies Are Mean. I don't know. Their song titles are a lot more interesting than that. But let's say, for the sake of argument, this song is called Bullies Are Mean. And we want it to sound like a James Bond spy song. And then that's it. That's what I have to work with. this is how the song goes, and then I get to do whatever I want, and it's really, really a lot of fun. So work with them, and just it's every day is a new adventure, man.
Well, brother, I really appreciate you joining us. If there's one thing that you would like the world to know on the interwebs that they might not know about you, what might that be?
I'm a big Christian dude, and I guess one thing that I would say is that for years I thought everything the most important thing in my life was, hey man, you're a guitar player, you're on the road, you're on stage with these amazing musicians and just people like Lloyd who make the process happen, and you form these amazing bonds. It's really like, I mean, it's kind of like going to war, kind of like going to camp, right? Like, I've never been to war, so I'm not trying to trivialize that, but the you're in a very unique experience with people, and you're very close knit, and you form very tight bonds very quickly. And I really do miss that. But my identity was wrapped up in being that guy, right? Not being the guy or gal, but being, just to the right of them. And man, God did something in my life and was just really released me from that feeling of it being all wrapped up into that, and the freedom that I've found on the other side of just kind of letting go of that. Hey man, maybe music is maybe it's done. Like if I can't make money playing music anymore, I guess I'm gonna have to do something else. But that's gonna be okay. And so I guess the moral of the story here is you kind of never know what's on the other side until you hit the other side, and maybe don't be afraid to go there, because I had no idea that I would enjoy being a youth leader, but apparently I do, because it's something that I've been doing, right? It's just one of the side hustles. So it's yeah, you kind of never know what's going on. I'm there's a lot of layers to this smelly onion over here.
I love how you talked about when, especially with us, how when you're on the road with these folks, it's a different type of relationship. I know in a lot of these other interviews that I've done, we've definitely tried to hone in on the fact that in this industry, we're not just numbers, we're a name, we're a person, we're family. And a lot of times we're out on the road with the people that we're out on the road with more than we're with our immediate family.
Totally.
And I can definitely attest with you that it's like a brotherhood, and I remember days to where the local hands wouldn't show up, and I would come on the bus and be like, I'll call.
Yeah.
You guys would come out, you know what I mean? Like, you guys wouldn't hoot and holler, you know what I mean? You'd have that sad look at first for a second, but then it would be like, all right, let's go do this, and
put stuff in, man.
And it's amazing to be able to know that a lot of people out there don't realize that these musicians on stage are just as tight knit with 9 times out of 10 the crew that they work with, because they trust the crew that they work with to make them sound good, make them look good, and help polish what their craft is that they're doing on stage. And I can attest that at front of house with me, every time I was mixing with you guys, do I lie? I would be making faces, but I'd be dancing the whole time, right? And it would be like looking out at you and Chili, and it's like try to avoid that, but it's like let's see how many faces I can make. Let's see how many jokes I can make while you guys are looking straight ahead, and see if I can get you to crack a smile like that while we're doing our thing. But it's a dance, and a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, it's, and you're having relationships. Something that I would tell, I used to mentor at this thing called Camp Electric, which was a kind of rock and roll camp, Christian music camp. And something that I would encourage those kids with is, if you really want to do the road thing, especially the road thing, but really any part of the music industry, I mean, you got to be able to hang. Right. And by that, I mean, like, you got to check the ego at the door. And you're living with people. You never know who you're talking to. Yeah, you got to be able to play or mix or do lighting design or fill in the blank for what your role is, for what you got hired to do. But man, if you're really amazing at that, but then you're just like a kind of an awful person to be around and really, really difficult, and it's like, man, you're not gonna go anywhere.
Right.
You're living with people. I mean, you think being on the road is glamorous. Well, you'll forget all about that after day two in a moving 150 square foot apartment with 10 other people. Like, it's it is not glamorous. It's a hustle, man. It's a grind. And or I should say the majority of it isn't glamorous. There are those that get to bask in the glamour,
Right.
but it's few and far between. So but that doesn't mean it's not worth it. It totally is worth it. It's just having kind of realistic expectations about what actually is behind the work, behind the music.
Hey, it's called Meet the Crew for a reason, right? And not just the crew, but the artists and the performers, because we're all in this together.
Totally, man.
So again, Court, I want to thank you for joining us. How can people reach out to you? I know you don't necessarily do the social media thing. I'm kind of in the same boat. How can people reach you in order to possibly book you for a session, or maybe to sneak you out for a live show here and there? How do people reach you?
Sure. So, I mean, honestly, I'll just give you kind of my work email address, because that's literally it. I have an Instagram account, but I think the last time, and you can find it if you want to see what I was doing 2 years ago. I haven't deactivated it. It's just CourtlanClement, which looks like this down here. CourtlanClement. So you can find me there. And then the email address, if somebody wants to reach out, would just be, again, my name, CourtlanClement@yahoo.com. And I'm kind of working on a website, but kind of dragging my feet. So yeah, that's kind of where you find me. I like to be communicated with in the old-fashioned way, which is apparently now email, because I remember rotary phones
Hey,
and answering machines. Yeah.
pick up the phone. Well, Court, thank you again, brother, for coming on the show. I'll make sure to put your contact information in the description.
Take it.
Thanks again, bud. We
Got it.
appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Lloyd.
Be safe.
Hey, man, I'm CourtlanClement, and you've just met the crew.
Meet the Crew with your host, Lloyd Ellis.